So what do you really think is holding you back? Our clients tell us all the time that they're holding themselves back, but what does that actually mean? And is that the truth? And of course, most importantly, how can you get past that? Well, I'm going to give you the secret to that right now. And that's thinking that you are holding yourself back is exactly what's holding you back. Yes, if you believe that you're your own limitations, you'll prove yourself right every single time. And for however long you choose to believe that, that will be your truth. But that does not have to be how your story ends. We've helped person after person get through this, but it requires some understanding first so you know how to combat it. And we want to give that to you here today. So if you're ready to stop holding yourself back so you can create a business and life of freedom you truly want, let's go. It's time to redefine leadership. Welcome to Modern Leadership, where we see things differently. Our channel is all about empowering entrepreneurs like you to achieve the next level of success in business and life. We believe that you can create a massive impact in the world without compromising your personal life or family time to do so.
We're committed to providing you with actionable tips and strategies weekly to make that possible. So if you're ready to become a modern leader and make a lasting difference in the world, consider subscribing. Turn on notifications and dive into our community. We want to thank you for being here because the world needs your leadership now more than ever. Let's go.
So one of the things we teach in our life coach certification is your brain will do whatever it can to convince you to not take the actions because it wants to keep us safe. So I want to start this out by throwing it to you. Like, why is it that our brain tries to get us to do that?
Well, I think it's because our brains are just designed to do just that, is to keep us safe and not do anything that makes us feel uncomfortable or unsafe.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like our brains are literally designed not only to keep us safe, but to also automate things. And so when it can convince us that we're holding ourselves back or we're overwhelmed or we're stuck, we literally won't do the things that we need to do to get anything different, right? I mean, it's just the way the brain works. Back in the day, it was important to listen to our brain in order to survive, but that's not necessary so much anymore. And a lot of times the things that we're doing that we're fearful of are things that, like, when you think about it, the worst thing that could happen is a feeling in your body. So let's actually dive into some of those stories that we tell ourselves that get us off track, including the one where I'm in my own way. So can you give us an idea of maybe some of the common stories that you hear people struggle with, and when they believe it, it actually holds them back?
Yeah, a lot of times they will say, I am getting in my own way. Like, I need to get out of my own way. And then other times it could be, oh, I'm self-sabotaging. So once you kind of find a level of awareness where you know that you're kind of doing things that are keeping you from taking action or moving forward, that's one step, right? Mm-hmm. But then the next step is, well, what do you do about it, right? Because just knowing that you are the problem is not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you broke it down into 2 steps, because that first piece of awareness of like, maybe it's me, maybe I don't know what I don't know, that is a critical step. But I feel like a lot of people stop there and they're like, yeah, there's something, I'm holding myself back. And they get stuck in this mindset of like, let me focus on the problem and it's going to help me like actually figure out the solution to this problem. But we know that as life coaches, that what you focus on grows, right? And when you focus on you being the problem, you can't find out that you are actually the solution too.
And some people will actually say, yeah, I'm the problem, and that's it. Like, they're just like, well, I guess I can't move forward. Or it's kind of like an excuse almost that people make because they feel like they don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Because when we can convince ourselves we won't have to do those hard things, then we'll go out and prove that we're not good enough so that we can go back into our comfort zone. I mean, it's the way that our brains work, right? Now, let's talk about the second step, all right, which is figuring out what do you do after you actually identify that you are potentially the person who's holding yourself back. So what would you say is like step number 2? How do people get started?
Okay, so one of the first steps after awareness is basically just keeping track of when that happens. What's triggering that, right? So is it going out there and putting yourself in front of an audience, or posting, or, having a difficult conversation? So those are some of the things that you can kind of look out for to make sure that, okay, maybe there's actually a pattern that I have and I can just become aware of that, and then try and find the steps, which we'll talk about in a minute, so I can break free from this hold that I have on myself.
Yes. And I love that you bring up the idea of like thinking about a specific time that this happened, right? This is what we do with our clients all the time. It's what we teach inside of our life coach certification, because when you can go back to an actual incident where you kind of have felt like you're getting in your way or you're struggling with something, you can actually go back to the thought or the story that actually fueled that experience for yourself. Now, in our life coach certification, we talk about this being the difference between head versus heart. Head, we kind of talked about a minute ago. It's like it's designed to keep you safe. It's going to be focused on what's broken, wrong, or missing. But when you focus on that, it doesn't automatically get better. You just have more like belief that it's not possible for you. And it's this spiral that goes down and it's kind of like out of control. But there's another place, right? This is called your heart space. It's the second place that really speaks to us, but we really have to turn that volume up and really turn down the volume of our head, right? Our heart talks about the potential for the future. It talks about our purpose. It talks about love. It talks about abundance. It talks about all of these things when it comes to like the things that we really want to work for, not only work for, but the things that we want to create in our life and wanting something different, right? And when we focus on that, we will find solutions to the problem. We don't even have to have the solutions now, but when we can program in our brain that there are solutions and focusing on the problem is not going to be helpful, then we're going to be open to actually experiencing this.
Okay, so can you give us an example of how you've coached someone through this?
Yes. I actually help coach people through this almost every single day because we all have stories we tell ourselves to not do the hard things. These are things like, I feel overwhelmed. I don't have the time. I feel stuck. I think I'm the problem. Anytime that somebody has that situation where they're thinking about that constantly, they're actually going to go out into the world and manifest that. Now, inside of our life coach certification, we teach this process called the push method. It's kind of like our universal leadership tool that we can find out based off of the stories we're thinking, why we're creating that experience for ourselves. And I want to take you through like an example right now so that people can really see it if they've never gone through our certification. Now, let me give you an example. Let's say that maybe you're putting together a webinar and you're reaching out to people to join you on the call, right? And not a lot of people join you. Maybe 2 people are there for your sales presentation, right? Now you have an opportunity there, but usually our brain doesn't remind us of that. It focuses on what's broken, wrong, or missing. So what's the problem with 2 people only showing up on your webinar? You could have this thought of like, I'm stuck. I must not know what I'm doing. People must not actually appreciate how I'm teaching them. Now, when you think that, how would that make you feel? Well, in that moment, you might feel depressed. You might feel unworthy. You might be resentful. You might be frustrated. Any number of different feelings, right? But when you feel that way, how do you show up, right? So if you feel unworthy, how do you show up? Well, you probably don't put together another webinar. You probably don't talk to the people, the 2 that are there, like they're 2,000, right? You're like, oh my God, I'm going to change these 2 people's lives. You're probably not taking those actions, right? Probably close your laptop, never to be seen or heard from again. And what do you manifest? You actually manifest that you aren't moving forward, that you are stuck, and that you're not helping any people, because that is what you were focusing on in the first place. But remember, there's a second place for the heart, right? So maybe you get on the webinar and only 2 people show up, right? Now, instead of going down the path of your head, you start to think about, I'm going to treat these 2 like they're 2,000. I'm going to go over and above and thank these people for being here on the webinar by giving them everything that I've got. I'm going to show up and make these my 2 best testimonials in the world. Now, when you think that, how does that make you feel? For me, it makes me feel powerful, but it also makes me feel good because I'm in alignment with what I want to do, which is making an impact. Why would somebody give me 2,000 people if I couldn't make an impact in 2? And this is my opportunity to help them. Now, when you feel powerful, how do you show up for that webinar? You show up like there's 2,000 there. And guess what happens? You actually start to help people. You start to get testimonials. You deliver for them on a level that could have never been delivered if there was 2,000 people. And now it's your greatest opportunity because those people go out and talk about what it is that you did. Now, can you see the difference of what you would manifest in that situation? You were actually helping those 2 people, but now those 2 people are going to go tell more people. You're going to get excited about it, and it's going to have this exponential growth in your business. It's not the fact that 2 people showed up on your webinar. It's how your brain interpreted it. That's what made the biggest difference for everyone. Okay, now I got a question for you. Like, what would you say if somebody gets here to this video and they're like, but I'm stuck in this. Like, I don't have access to a coach. I don't know the push method. I don't know any of this head versus heart that you guys shared about. By the way, I'll leave you the link inside of the description if you want to learn more about our life and performance coach. But really, even having a coach just in and of itself is a game changer. But I'm curious, like, what is something that you would give, like one piece of advice that you would give somebody who feels like they're stuck and they're holding themselves back right here?
Yeah, one thing would be to check your surroundings, check who you're hanging out with, because most likely the people around you have the same stories. So this is your greatest opportunity to find the people to surround yourself with that believe in themselves and that have stories that are focused on their heart.
Now, if you get to that point and you want a community of like-minded, family-driven entrepreneurs who want to make a huge difference in the world, but without having to sacrifice their family time or their health, That is what we do inside of our inner circle. You can check it out by clicking the join button below, where we'll talk a little bit about how our community works. But I just want to end with this, and that is thank you very much for leaning in and being willing to tackle these head voices. A lot of these head voices have come from our past, from traumatic incidents that we've been a part of, but being willing to look at it and see something different, to find that heart voice that will fuel you to show up as the way that you want to show up and create that impact in your life and the world. We appreciate you for doing that, for being willing to lean in. Thank you for what you do out there every single day, and keep leading from the front.